Hey, welcome everyone to Caspio Live. This is Ned. If you're able to hear me okay, please let me know inside the chat window. Just a quick housekeeping item before we begin with today's presentation. So, welcome, and just let me know that you can hear me okay, and we will go ahead and begin. As you may have noticed, today's presentation is about building dashboards. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Welcome, A-Name. I think you've attended my previous live streams as well, so if my memory serves me well, so welcome back. But yeah, today we have an exciting topic, being able to see and visualize our data. So if you have some data offline in Excel, or if you're creating new data from scratch via the app, it's always exciting to see how your data is visually represented with charts and graphs so that we can see analytics, metrics, KPIs, and things like that. And we're going to accomplish this using Caspio's Flex framework. We've done a session on this using Bridge. This was a while back, but we also wanted to bring it in for Flex so that you can see how it's possible to do with both frameworks. If there are no questions for me, we can go ahead and begin. As always, I like to give you a live demo of what we're going to create, and then we're going to go inside Caspio, show you how to import the Excel file, and how to build out all the interfaces. So for my example today, we have a table that contains about 100 rows of data, and it's all about total profit, quantity, product name, category, your typical data that you would see in the orders table. And what we're able to do is simply filter all of our charts all at once using this filter form that I have on the left. So if I were to select, let's say, for example, Bluetooth speaker, and I click search, you can see how all the charts instantly update based on that selection. And then I can also reset the search and it reverts back to what it was before I added my filter. I also have a date range that we can select. Now my data set is for year 2024. And just to preface and say a little bit about the data, it's all dummy data. It's fictitious data. There's no actual data in here. So it's all made up. So let's say, for example, we were to go back and look at data from, we're interested in seeing data from, let's say, July 1st until the end of the year. We click search. You can see how all the charts are going to update. I can reset, and it brings back everything for a full year. So let's see how we can do this inside Caspio. Let's go inside my account. Before I start building things, let me show you my Excel file. As I mentioned before, it has about 100 rows of data inside it, and we have order ID, we have the product name. Let me expand these columns. We have category, quantity, price per unit, total, and date ordered. So if you have a similar Excel file, it doesn't have to be an orders table. It can be anything. Even if you have a workbook file that contains multiple data sheets, you can import that into Caspio. And because Caspio is a database platform, you can create relationships, one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. It's a relatable database, and you can create all of these web interfaces for your end users to log in and be able to see data in reports, be able to submit data, visualize data using charts. So that's what we're going to build today. It's always nice to be able to see what our data actually means in a graphical format. So let's see how we can import the file. I've already created my app container in advance. So if you were to land on the home page, you're going to go inside the Flex framework. I have my app container already created. I gave my application a name, and all we're going to do here is click on the tools, click on import, locate that file. I have it saved inside this folder. Let's open it, click next, and let's just go through a few steps of importing that file into Caspio. Also, if at any point you have any questions for me, feel free to submit it in the chat window. I will be able to see that, and I'll get to answering all of your questions. So let's click next. It shouldn't take that long to bring the data in. So here's my file name that I'm importing. It's going to be a comma delimited file. It's a CSV format. Let's hit next. So the first thing you want to make sure you select the right application container. So I already created my container in advance. So here it is under the Flex framework. Okay, that's my container. That is my original table name, my data sheet name. I want to create a new table inside Caspio because I don't have this data inside my application yet. So I want to create a new table, but you have other actions here that you can choose from. For example, replacing existing tables, appending new data, updating specific changes, or just simply updating the table design. We are going to create a new table, and let me just call this maybe Excel to web orders table. Just so it's easier for me to locate it later on. I'm not going to keep this application in my account. It's just a demo for today's Caspio Live, but it'll help me with this naming convention. It'll help me locate it later on and just quickly delete it. So that's why I give it this unique name. Otherwise, I normally wouldn't call my tables with such a long name. So let's click next. Then you get to see a just a sample of your data that you're importing. You can make some modifications up here as well. The top row are the original field names. You can rename those field names to something else if you'd like. You can also choose to include all the columns that you're importing, and then you can choose the data type. So for example, my total here, instead of that being an integer, I'd like to change that into a currency. Okay. We have the order date. I would like to change that into a date and time. All right. And then once I'm done with that, I can click import. Now, I could have actually made this change offline in my Excel file, but I just wanted to show you how when you import the data, you have the capability to make these adjustments during the import step. Okay. So let's click import. And that's the final step before we bring that data in. So what I'll do now is I'll go into my app overview, go into tables, and now that same table that I had offline in Excel, which is this one here, now you can actually see it inside Caspio, inside a database. Same exact data set. We can click on each cell if we want to make modifications, and we can also go to table design to make modifications to our field names along with our data types. Okay, pretty simple. Now let's go ahead and build out the application. And to build the app and all the charts and filter forms, you're going to navigate over to Designer. And as you can see, it's a blank canvas. Okay, so this is where you see all of the updates and changes in real time as you're developing your application. I only have one segment, which is the public one by default. Okay. If you're building a internal application, you don't have to worry about the public segment. You can just collapse that and start developing other segments. For example, admin role, manager, supervisor. But for today's Caspio Live, for the interest of time, I am going to build everything inside my public access segment that I have. Normally, if you're building a dashboard, typically you're going to want to password protect that. Maybe it's just for internal eyes only. But again, it's not the point of today's demo. It's just to show you how to go about building dashboards. So I will just rename this to something more relevant, maybe dashboard. And one thing that I'm going to do is inside the roles tab, I want to make a few modifications to my permissions for public access. We're going to click open, and I will just simply say, if you want somebody to be able to submit a form inside that public segment, you're going to set that to yes. If you want viewers to be able to see charts and be able to see data under read, you also want to select this to be yes. And then you're going to click save, navigate back to your designer, and now everything that you develop inside the public access, people are going to be able to view and submit if you have a submission form built there. Okay. So just to aesthetically make it look a little bit nicer, I'm just going to update my company logo here. So I can go to my public segment. I can click on that, click on select, and just bear with me for 1 second while I find my logo. I'll do that in a different window. Here it is. So I have, again, I have this fictitious logo, Acme, that I will add into my application. Now, if you have your own company logo, of course, you can include your own company logo here. And now under dashboard, which is the app page that I have, we will proceed to build out all of the filter forms and all the charts. And the first thing that we're going to build is the filter form. We're going to click on add elements. I want to build a search form. We're going to drag that in. Select the table that we just imported from Excel. And pick what filtering fields you would like to have. You can have any filtering field that you want. It's completely up to you. Okay, but for the interest of time, we're going to choose product name and date ordered. So I can do a drop down on the product and I can do a date range. We're going to hit next. For product name, I am going to select this to be a drop down. And then for lookup table, inside that main table that we imported, we're going to pick the product name. It's already automatically selected for me. And one thing, this is just a personal preference under appearance. I always like to have floating labels. So the label appears inside the field, but when you click inside the field, the label is going to float up. Okay, so it's a cool little dynamic feature that allows you to move the label once you click inside the field. Now for date ordered, a little bit of a setup is needed here to create the date range. Okay, don't feel like it's intimidating. It's really not. What we have to do is we have to add a virtual field because we want to have two different search fields for date. Date ordered, I'm just going to change the appearance to have a floating label, and I will just simply say date, and this will be my from date. Okay, that's going to be my label. The second one, which is the virtual field, the label is going to say date to. And again, inside the appearance, I want a floating label and I want a calendar pop-up. And that's how you're going to have two date fields on your search form. This is going to be date from, and this will be date to. We're going to hit save. And there's my search form. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller because I plan on eventually adding my charts on the dashboard as well. Always best practice, always get into a habit of naming your data parts. So up here, I will just rename this to filter dashboard. You will see that here at the top. And then for the heading, we will just simply call this filter. And you will see now how the heading appears above the filter form. Now, if you wish to see what that looks like already without seeing any of the charts, you can always go to deployment, expand the segment, enable deployment status, and click on the link. And there's your filter form. Okay, pretty quick, right? It's just as fast to create all the charts as well. Okay, so let's go through creating a few charts. Maybe we don't build out all the charts that I have here. If you want to see a specific one, just let me know, and I will show you how to build all of these charts. All right, so let's take a look. The first one we're going to build is sales by month. Okay, so we want to group all of our data by month, and we want to see the pattern of sales month over month. So let's go back to our account, inside Designer, add elements. Let's do a line chart. We'll put this here. Same table, and what we're plotting is date ordered and total. Okay, so we want on the x-axis, we want to see the month, and we want the total sales over month by month, basically. We'll hit save. All right, so that's my data by day from the table, but we're going to go ahead and group that. So I will just, on the right side, you will see x-axis under settings, and I will simply click on these dots, and we will group this by month. Click save. All right, and then you can reposition the chart. We can move it closer to the filter form. I can also make it smaller to make room for other charts that I plan on developing. Let's add a heading. So let's call this sales by month. And again, always get into a habit of renaming your data parts, because when it comes to setting up the filters later on, it's a lot easier to find it by name as opposed to new data part. Let's call this sales by month and hit save. All right, so we're not done yet, right? We need to connect the filters from the filter form to our chart. But if you refresh the form or the web page, you will now see that line chart and you can see month over month sales. So now to create the filters, you're going to simply select the chart. You're going to set your filters, create the filter. And the first one we're going to do is the product name because that's the first field we have on the filter form. So we do product name is equal to, select the data part field, choose dashboard, that's the name of my app page, filter dashboard, that's the name of my form, and you're going to simply find the product name listed here and click save. So that's the first filter. Now what's going to happen is when you actually select the product from the dropdown and you hit search, everything inside the chart will filter based on that product name. Let's add another filter. This time we're going to do a date order field. And we want to do a date range here. So the first filter that we want to set up here is after or exactly. So we're looking for the exact date or the date after that. So we're going to select this option, data part field, select dashboard, filter dashboard, and you want to select the first field. This is the date from, and hit save. Add another filter, date ordered is before or exactly. You're going to select data part field, choose dashboard, filter, and then you select the virtual field, which is the date to. So we have date from and date to. Hit save, save once again, and let's test this out. Let's go back to our live web page. And if I choose the product name, let's say notebook, click search, you will see how the chart filters out the data. We can reset that. And if you do a date range, let's say from May of 2024, May 1st, you hit search. Now you're getting the data from May to December. And again, you can remove that date field, hit search again, and everything is going to reset. All right, so that's how you build a very simple line chart and the ability to filter. Now, when you build out all the charts, you're going to have to set up those filters just like what we did with the line chart. The nice thing about Caspio Bridge framework is you can simply duplicate a chart and it'll preserve those settings for you so you don't have to keep creating these filters. But that will be also available in Flex over time. But for right now, we have to set up each chart individually and we have to set the filters again for every chart that we create. So the next one we're going to build is a simple bar chart or column chart that shows us sales by category. So let's add a new element. Let's do a column chart. We'll place that here. Same table. And let's do category and then let's do total and click save. So now you see the categories underneath, and then you can see the total sales by category. Once again, we're going to rename our data part, sales by category. We'll add a heading, sales by category, so that we can have the heading appear above the chart. And what else did I do to my live example? Let's see. So as you can see, I sorted it based on total from least to most. This way. I also could have used a bar chart to do the same thing, but I wanted to show you a column versus a bar chart. So let's do that here as well. We'll come back to designer. And I believe that's done down here somewhere. Let me just take a look. We will sort by field, not by the X. Let's see what fields we have. Total. And let's do it this way, A to Z. So now you can see that if you wanted to rank, let's say, the top performing category to the least performing category, you could do a bar chart or you could do a column chart here. If you wish to do that, we'll just make it a little bit smaller to make space for other charts. And let's refresh. All right, there's my second chart. Of course, we still have to set up our filters like we did before with the line chart. So you would select the chart and repeat the same step. Set the filters and then create those filters just like we did for the initial chart that we created. Okay. I think best use of our time is to avoid creating these filters over and over again. I think once you see it once, you'll be able to duplicate that for all the other charts. Maybe best thing to do, best use of our time, is to just continue building a few more charts, because I think that's what most people would rather see anyway, right? And you just let me know in the chat window if you want me to create the filters again. I am more than happy to do that. But I think better use of our time is to simply just continue building charts, as many as we can, in the time that we have today, to get to some of the more exciting ones, like the, displaying data based on a series, by category, or maybe do a multi combination chart. But anyway, let's do the sales by product next. So we will come back here, add a new element. Let's do a bar chart. Place that here. Same table. And what we're going to plot is, let me see, what do I have here? We have the product and we have the total sales. So on the x-axis, I would like to have the total, and then we want the product name on the y-axis. Perfect. So it's already set up for me. I just want to add my heading, sales by product, and again, rename my data part, sales by product. And then we also want to sort. So we will select the chart, come down here, and we will sort by field, not by product name, but we want to sort by total. And I believe we're going to do Z to A. Okay, top performing product by least performing product. So we'll refresh. Perfect. All right, so now we know that the standing desk generates the most revenue for us, and the least performing product is the water bottle, which over the whole year, you're getting $420 for selling that product. All right, so let's continue building a few more. We have orders by month, also helpful to see. So we're going to add a new element. We'll do a column chart underneath that one. And let's see, what we want here is date ordered and maybe the product name, because we're simply just doing the count. So we don't really care what field we choose for the y-axis. We'll do a product name, click save. And I might have this actually in reverse, I think. Let me see. Yeah, I have the date ordered as the y-axis. So let's add the date on the x-axis. So date ordered here. And for the y-axis, we can add the product name, and we'll just simply remove the date ordered. And we need to group by month. So we'll group by month. Oh, not week, month. Click save. Perfect. And then instead of seeing product name, you can rename that label to something else, maybe total ordered or something like that. And we're doing a function count. So we're simply just counting the number of products that we have in the table by month. Click save. And always don't forget to add your data part name. So this will be orders by month. And we'll change the heading, orders by month. Perfect. So now we can refresh, and we should be able to see that chart as well. And there it is. Let's see what's next. We have, okay, so now we have the one that has a category and a series. So we are doing a column chart where we get the total by category by month. So let's see how we can build this out. Add an element, and we have a column chart. We'll place that here. So what I'll do initially is I will grab my date field, I will grab my total, and then later on I will show you how you can plug in the category as well. Okay, so we're going to hit save. I will expand this all the way across. Okay, it's not letting me expand that all the way across. I need to figure out why. That is interesting. So we'll figure out that in just a second. But first thing we're going to do for the x-axis is group by maybe month and year. So let's go ahead and find that. year and month. Save. Okay, we have that. And then we also want to add a series. So we're going to add the category right there. Wait for it to reload. Now you can see how it's creating a category by month. So we have 4 different or 5 different categories by month in columns. Let's go ahead and see this live so it's easier. It's a little bit wider. You see what it did? It created an actual category inside each month this way, but we want to stack that. We don't want this to be one at a time like that. We want to stack that into a column. So we'll go back to Caspio here, and then we'll just say stacked. Okay, that's a little bit easier on the eyes. And let's see, what else do I want? I want to create my heading. So we'll call this, what did I call this chart? Let me see. Sales by month per category. Perfect. Sales by month per category. And I will also use the same name inside a data part. Okay, let me take a look. And now you get to see, also I need to sort because it's starting with May. It actually needs to start with January. So let me see how to fix that. I think that's down here somewhere under sorting by field. There we go. I think that fixed it. Let's take a look. Yeah, January, February, March. So now it's in the correct order. And we can see, you know, okay, appliances 1900. We have office supplies 1200. And you can now see sales by category. You can also click inside a legend if you want to hone in or hide certain categories. So just focus on a specific category if needed. And everything changes in real time too. Now, why is this not stretching all the way across? That is a good question. It should allow me to stretch that all the way across. So I need to figure out why. I think when I initially dropped the chart, I had it stick underneath the one above. And the way I placed it, it now thinks that it wants to stick underneath the one above, and I don't want that. So I would have to rebuild the chart and reposition it so it's across both of these above. But I guess it won't let me do that. Let me try something else. Let me move it down here. Let me try to make it a little bit wider down here. Let's see. Maybe I can do it this way. And what if I still can't move it up because I need to change the width a little bit more. Okay, so it wants to stick underneath the one that's directly above it. All right, well, we're not going to go ahead and rebuild this. I should have just had it come in and then resize it and move it manually as opposed to trying to stick it underneath the one that's directly above. But anyway, that's an easy fix. We're not going to spend time on that because it would force me to delete that chart and rebuild it, and I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and create another one. Let's see what else do we have. We have a pie chart. So why don't we build this one next, where we see a distribution by sales distribution by category in percent. Well, that should be an easy one to build, and I will actually put that one directly here. So add elements, pie chart. See, if you place it like that, it's going to think that it wants to stick with the one directly above when you see that line. And I will show you how to avoid doing that if you want to have the chart wider and not stick to the one directly above. So let's select the table. And what we want is total sales by category. We'll hit save. And that's it, really. You don't have to make any other changes here. So we can just simply add our heading. Sales by category, percent. Whoops. And then for my data part name, we will simply say sales by category. Oh, let's just call it percent. All right, perfect. Let me see if I need to do anything else here. I don't think so. Let's just refresh the dashboard just to see that pie chart. And there it is. Okay, so it's starting to come together. It looks really nice. And we're going to build one more for today's class, which is a combination chart that shows us total sales by month and the average sale per month. So that's what we're going to do. So let's build that out. And instead of me dragging the chart and having it stick with the one directly underneath, I'm just going to click the combination chart and it automatically adds it in the row underneath. And then I think that should fix the issue, allowing us to resize the chart and place it wherever we want. So let's go ahead and click on the table. And what do we want here? We want the total, we want the date ordered, and we want the total. And click save. All right. The first thing we're going to do is group by month. All right, click save. Okay, that's perfect. All right, and we'll stretch this all the way across. And the next thing that we want is to create the average sale. So let's add one more y-axis. And we want total again, but this time instead of sum, we want to do an average, and let's do a line chart and click save. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is simply add our heading. So what did I call this? Let me see. We call this one total versus average sales by month. Just add that in there. And for this one, we'll call that. All right, I think we're all set. Let's reload the page. And there's our final chart. We have the average sale by month, and then we also have the total sales by month. Now, you could also include a tabular report if you wanted to, or any other data part if you wish to filter something on your dashboard. It doesn't have to just comprise of charts. You know, it can be any data part that you can think of. You can also quickly add data on the fly directly inside a dashboard using an overlay window, which is also an interesting thing to consider if you want to be able to quickly add data via the dashboard. And if anybody wants to see that, just let me know in the chat window. We can spend a few more minutes building that out for inputting data. The last thing really that's left to do, which is a bit of a tedious thing as you watch me do it for the first chart, is we have to set the filters for every single chart that we create. And to do that, you simply have to select your chart, you click on set filters, and then you have to create the filters so they work with the search form. Okay, so this chart will filter out the data based on your selection here, just like we did with the very first one where we set up all three of these filters. But you watched me do it. It's just point and click. There's no coding. You just have to select your options, and in the end you click save. And what's going to happen is, let's go to my live example here, which is this one. Then what's going to happen is when you select, let's say, the product and you hit filter, all the charts will filter out simultaneously. And when you reset, everything comes back. Okay. Is anyone interested in seeing an overlay window? How we can quickly input data into our dashboard rather than just searching? If anybody wants to see that, we can spend 2 more minutes building that out. So let me show it. I'll show it because I think it's valuable to see. Because Caspio is not just for building reports and visualizing data, it's really an enterprise-grade platform that allows you to build workflows, different user roles, permissions, who's going to be able to see what based on record-level security. But for inputting data as well, you know, every time you're talking about applications, it's about inputting and outputting. So let me show you how to build that out really quickly. Let's say we set up another app page. Let's call this one add order. And I'll just place it inside my public segment. There's my add order. Okay, now I will add an element. And let's go with a submission form based on the orders table. Let's select all the fields. Click next, and then you can modify the fields, right? Now, typically the order ID will be an auto number, okay, or some kind of GUID, random ID that's generated upon submission. But that's not the way I set up my table. I could have done that, but I didn't plan on creating the input form today. So we're just going to leave that as a text field, okay, but we're going to make sure it's a required field. Then you have product name. You might set that up to be a dropdown. I'm going to leave it as a text field. Category, most likely going to be a dropdown. I will leave it as a text field. Quantity, price per unit. Total will be a formula. Okay, it'll be a formula eventually, but I will leave that as a text field because I haven't planned on building this out, so all of my functionality is not set up correctly from the beginning. Okay, and finally we have date ordered, which we're going to manually select the date, but typically this will be a timestamp. It'll automatically capture both the date and time upon submission, but we'll leave it as a text field. I'll hit save. Okay, so there's my order form. Maybe you can add a heading, order form. Just try to imagine this is your customer placing an order on your website, right? Maybe they select the product, they're going to input the quantity, it gets the total for them automatically. Upon submission, we get to see all of that. Now, what we're going to do with this app page, okay, we're going to create this to be an overlay window like this. So it's a pop-up, like a modal window. Inside the dashboard, let's say inside the filter form, we go ahead and, let me just remember how to do this, header controls. We click add. Let's call this new order. Action, open app page, and then we open up the add order app page that we just created, which is the overlay window, right? So when I click on the button, it's going to have a pop-up for me to fill out that order form. We're going to hit save, and that's it. So now when we come back to our website and we refresh, now we have that button. So what's going to happen when I click on that button? Oh, I haven't published my app page yet. So let's go to deployment. And let's enable deployment status. Go back to my application, refresh, new order. So new order came in, and now we can submit that form. We can also put these buttons side by side easily. So let's just say order ID, product name. Okay, so let me, because typically these will be drop downs, right? So that it's static selection. You're not really inputting something that doesn't exist in the application. So we're going to go with maybe air purifier and category. I would need to see my categories too. Anyway, we'll just make it up. Okay, we'll do air purifier. I don't want to make it up. Sorry. Let me go to my table really quickly and just find out some of my categories here. Air purifier is appliances. Okay, so we'll grab that name. We'll come back to my order form. So let me be 5,000. Air, did I copy it? Yeah, I did. And this was appliances. Let's say we order, let's make a drastic change, shall we? Let's just do something a bit drastic so that we can see how the charts are going to behave. Let's do 9,000. And let's say price per unit is, I don't know, 80 bucks. And what is the total? So I need my calculator here to do that for me. So we ordered 9,000 times 80 is 720,000. Okay. And order date, we'll go back to 2024 because that's when my data set is. Sorry. Oh, what is it doing? All right, let's say we place that order in October 9th, 2024. We'll hit submit. Let's close it. And now you can see how all the charts have changed because of that sale that we had in the month of October. Okay, you can see how it pushed everything down. Normally this wouldn't happen unless really somebody placed an exaggerated order on any given month. But still, you know, you want to be able to see that. Why did we have such an increase in sale for the month of October? And then you get to see the reason why inside the charts. Clearly, appliances category is killing it in terms of sales and revenue. So keep selling that item, right? But if I were to remove that order from the table, and I can do that by simply going all the way down to the bottom of it and just removing that. Let's refresh. All the way down, there's that order. I will just delete that and refresh my dashboard, and it brings back to what it was before. Something a little bit more realistic, you know, in terms of the volume that we sell and how we see the data. All right, So that's all that I had for you today. Let me know if you have any questions before we sign off today. I appreciate your time and attendance. Without your attendance, we wouldn't have these live streams. So as long as you keep attending, the live stream will continue. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed the content. Let me know again if there are questions. I will close the live stream now. I'll keep the chat open for a few more minutes. And if nothing comes in, we will conclude today's session. So thank you for your time. And for the next live stream, which will be, we already have a title and topic in place, which will be July 2nd. The plan is to go over and cover best practices for using Bridge versus Flex. Okay, and we'll cover everything. Okay, advantages, disadvantages to using one framework over the other, and in what use cases and makes sense to use the Flex framework versus the Bridge framework. Okay, so we'll go into detail, for both frameworks and why you may want to choose one over the other based on what you're developing. And along the way, we'll talk about best practices, how to name your tables, so they don't conflict between Bridge and Flex. All right, that's my time. Thank you so much. Again, I will now close the live stream, but I'll keep the chat running for a few more minutes to see if there are any questions that come in. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of the week. We'll see you in the next live stream.